And good morning. It's time for another edition of Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions with Gateville Law Firm's Sean Robertson. And Sean, thanks for joining us again this morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, so on the show for today, we're focusing on a topic that involves estate planning for parents with young children. We've kind of touched on this. It's a broad enough topic, and there's a lot to it where you could kind of tackle this a couple of different ways, a couple of different shows, and that's kind of what we decided to do on today's show is kind of revisit this again. A lot that you can unpack here with this. We touched on certain points last week. What would we like to focus on today's version of this estate planning for parents with young children?
I think what we'll focus mostly on, Mike, is like what are the core documents that young parents or parents with young children would want. I think those documents are normally a will or a trust, powers of attorney. And one difference with the will for when you have minor kids is you want to name a guardian. And then a lot of times the major concern for most parents is they don't want their kids getting the money at a young age because they're not normally responsible.
Yeah, so what are some of the steps that parents would need to do in this situation, especially for that second point that you mentioned?
Yeah, so normally what we do in an estate planning interview is we talk to parents and we find out what their values are. And one of the benefits of a trust is parents can, if something happens to them and their spouse, they can put certain restrictions or conditions in place to protect their kids, meaning instead of getting the kids getting the money at age 18 or 21, possibly they get it at 25, and then maybe they get the rest at 30. So every case is different, but a lot of times, like I said, what we do, Mike, is we talk to parents about what their values are. Like, do you believe that a kid should have a car at age 16? Do you want to pay for college? Some do, some don't. So every trust document we do is kind of tailored to that family's values.
You wonder how many, because we're talking about parents with young children, so the parents themselves are probably young, 30s, 40s, 20s maybe.
Right.
And you wonder how many even think this far down the road, if they live a long life, they don't even have to worry about it. But if something tragically happens, like you're not thinking in that mindset at 25 or 30, right? So a lot of people don't do this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the people that we're seeing are probably in their 30s to mid-30s. They're the ones that probably have a little bit more money and also are a little bit more mature. So a lot of the kids are maybe 7, 8 years old. Not that parents shouldn't do it with the newborn, but a lot of those parents may not have the resources to do estate planning at that point.
Yeah, because you assume you'll be fine, but boy, if something happens and you have nothing in place.
Correct.
Big problems, right?
Yeah, and it gets really complicated because there's so many people that have, they've gone through divorces with spouses. They've got kids out of wedlock. So it gets really complicated, and each case is really different.
Yeah, so what are some of the other things that folks should be aware of when they're trying to put together a trust or a will?
Yeah,
this case?
I think the second thing is be realistic. Don't set up an estate plan that is really complicated that's not going to be carried out. Like one of the things that really matters is who's going to carry out the plan. Are you going to have a family member? Are you going to have a business that's going to carry it out? And that's going to depend on what your preference is as well as the level of assets you have.
So once someone makes their first contact with you guys and they want to start a will or whatever the case may be, how long of a process does that usually take start to finish?
Yeah, normally I would say a couple weeks to up to 30 days, depending. And the more complex, like, for example, I worked on a couple matters this morning where people have business interests, they've got real estate. Those will take a little bit longer, but I would normally say from finish to end, two weeks to 30 days is typical.
And how many days is that contacting you and being in touch with all the different information that you're requesting and all that?
Yeah, normally we're probably scheduling a meeting within 7 days generally. Sometimes if the schedule's really packed, maybe 10. And sometimes we have immediate availability. So it just really depends on the week. Like this week being Thanksgiving is kind of a bad week, but generally normally we get somebody in either that same week or the following week.
The most important thing is if you have questions, Sean Robertson and Gateville Law Firm, that's who you need to call, and that's where we suggest you do that at 630-780-1034, also at gatevillelawfirm.com. Get all of your questions answered about this or any matter that we've been discussing over these last several weeks. The show is called Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions with Sean Robertson of Gateville Law Firm. We'll see you again next time.